All right, so the last few weeks we've been talking about CSS and HTML, which are pretty important to web programming because they're the kind of the visual layer of the web, right? Like when you look at any web page, there's a good chance you're looking at HTML, and that HTML is styled by CSS, right? That's it. Now, if you want to do anything, this isn't on. This isn't on. I think just hit it twice and let's see if it works. Or I'll do it. I'm not good with computers, so I don't know why I'm doing this. More of a software guy. You think people ever check this for batteries? Why did they even change the batteries? It was like wire. Something happened? Why didn't somebody stand on a chair and turn it on by hand? Okay.
Where's the button?
Well, okay. Yeah, I can't really ask somebody to do that. Do you see the button?
Where is it?
I don't know. Not my thing. Something, you know? Well, in the meantime. Seriously? This shouldn't end badly, right? Yeah. Chair. Does that have wheels on it? Somebody hold the chair so it doesn't come crashing down. I'm not getting sued for this. He's good. Come on. Okay. Wait.
Oh, you shut out.
No. I see the light on. Tender pet. It sounds like my PlayStation.
Yeah.
So bad. Wait, what? Seriously, when is PlayStation people going to be here? Friday? All right, cool. Who are these people?
They interviewing people that interview.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get a solid interview out of me. Programming for real. So like I said, we talked about. Oh, whoops! I didn't mean to do that. We talked about HTML, CSS, and those are important for viewing things on the web. But if you really want to do stuff, if you want to make interactive, interesting things, then you need to learn how to actually program, not just markup, right? So that's where JavaScript comes in. And that's what this lecture is about. It's an introduction to JavaScript. So, I like to start with a little bit of theory, a little bit, right? So what is programming? What is programming? I don't know. You should Google that on your own time. But here's how I understand programming to be. So programming is the act of creating a set of instructions that tell a machine how to do something. Yeah, nice. I like to add a move. We should light a candle in here. It'd be nice. So yeah, it's just instructions to tell a machine what to do. Sometimes I like to not use the word machine. Oh, sorry. Sometimes I like to use the word robot. Okay, so how to tell a robot what to do. A machine or a robot could be anything. It could be your phone, it could be a website, it could be whatever. So that's really it. So do something? Yes, just do something, right? I'm purposely being vague here because a computer program can be anything. It can be one line that just prints the date or spits out a word. It doesn't have to be a long, complicated thing. A program is just telling, when you tell a computer what to do and it does it, that's a program. So cheesy but really true, it's up to your imagination. Hence the use of Comic Sans. By far the most imaginative of all typefaces. All right, start at the beginning. Charles Babbage. I don't really know much about him, but he's kind of credited as being the guy who invented the concept of a computer. Now, if you look at when he lived, you're like, wait a minute, there's no like electricity barely at this time. So how did this guy invent a computer? Really, what he did is he laid the foundation for the like logical thinking of how we create machines that take input and give output. Right? He kind of laid the foundation for this stuff, and his work was kind of on the heels of a lot of other really smart people who you can discover in your own time. This next slide, though, I think is really cool because we have Ada Lovelace, who is credited with writing the world's first computer program. She wrote the world's first computer program, which is pretty cool. I say sort of because there's some dispute to that claim. Some people say she didn't actually write the first program. Some say she did. But either way, she's not maybe what you think of when you think of a computer programmer. So that's why I include the slide, because I think we work in a field where it's sort of male-dominated, but it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, the first computer programmer was a woman, so it's wide open. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be a nerdy old white guy to do it. You can really be anybody. Anybody can do this. So Ada Lovelace. There's actually a programming language called Ada named after her, and I don't know. She's a cool figure. I recommend reading about her more. Anyway, so why are we learning JavaScript and not some other language, right? The reason is JavaScript is really the only language of the web browser, right? So Chrome, Safari, Firefox, they really only will interpret JavaScript. That's maybe partially true, but there's really no other language that you can write and execute in a browser. This is it. So that's why we're learning it. Otherwise, it would be very difficult. Now, there are some ways around this. There are ways that you can write your code in like another language, and it'll translate it to JavaScript, which is kind of neat. So you could write in, say, Python, Ruby, whatever, and it would compile it into JavaScript. I don't like doing that, though, because there's too much magic going on, and it's better to just learn the language. Another reason is that JavaScript typically is only a language of the client, right, of the browser, the front end, right? So you write your interface in JavaScript, and the back end, where like the database and all that, is in a different language. Like maybe you've heard of PHP or Java, Ruby, Python, yeah, C# for .NET. These are all more back end languages. But a really big development in the past few years has been this thing, Node.js, which has taken JavaScript onto the server. So you can actually write JavaScript that works on like a web page for your UI, your front end, and you can write JavaScript for the back end as well, which is very cool. Node it gets a lot of press recently. It's like kind of cool, edgy thing to learn right now. As far as anything computer programming can be cool or edgy, but all the cool kids are learning Node right now. The other reason that we're learning JavaScript is because they're really just great tools for using it. I came across this thing today that I wanted to share, just to be like, hey, look, people are making cool shit, and you will too someday. All right. You think my audio will work? Probably not, right? Nothing ever works. Nothing ever works. That's what's up. Damn, I'm so good at everything. So check this out. A friend of mine sent me this. This is so cool. So this is an interactive film. The music's by Danger Mouse, who you might know, and some other person, and Nora Jones, who, if you've ever been to a Starbucks, you've probably heard. This is done using something called 3JS, which is it's like a 3D library for JavaScript, and it kind of combines elements of motion graphics and 3D and all sort of cool stuff. And you can move the mouse around to do stuff. Hey man, you want to drive? So just when this loading is done, just like move the mouse around, and you'll do stuff. And it's kind of cool. The whole point of showing this is just to show like something cool that people are doing with JavaScript right now that maybe you haven't seen. Yeah, you want to kill the lights? Thanks. It hasn't like really started yet. We don't have to watch the whole thing. Yeah, move that mouse cursor, dude.
walls of the city streets and didn't explain. Sadly showed us our ways, but never asking why. Cast down, I was heaven sent to the church, no intent to repent on my knees.
So like what's happening is like when you move the mouse cursor around, it's kind of like it's moving the camera and it's also applying these like crazy like effects and filters and everything. Really cool. Yeah, this is all JavaScript. It's I mean it's using a lot of libraries and things to do it, but yeah, I mean this isn't Flash. This is all JavaScript. Yeah, you can get all the code for this. Yeah. Does anybody else want to play with the thing? You want to do it? I mean, we could. I don't know if I could really pass this around right now. Here, yeah, get in there. So it's like, I mean, it's kind of like a scene that's running, and then as you like mouse over, it applies like different filters and effects to what you're looking at, which is kind of neat. Yeah, and you can control the camera. I mean, you're on a track, so it's like you can't like go over there, but you can kind of affect what happens to the terrain, which is cool. Sure. I want to get to this one part, and then we'll stop running. Because it's much better to do something. Yeah, this part's. Point that way. I don't know what yeah. I didn't know you could go here. The little contrails coming off of it. Awesome. So if that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what the hell will. Yeah, so cool. Definitely check that out in your own time. And they're telling you to stack here too. What's the technology behind this? All right. Yeah, they have like kind of a making of thing here, showing you how they built all the things. So like a lot of what happens here is like they're using a 3D program to create their models, and then you import the models using 3JS, which is this thing down here, and then you can like animate, create scenes, move around them, and just do all kind of cool stuff. This like probably won't work in like an old browser. You probably have to have like a newer version of Chrome to work, and a pretty fast computer too. But so what? Like this is more like art than something functional, but it's a pretty neat thing. So yeah, these are some interesting things worth checking out. Chrome experiments are awesome. These are just kind of little sketches that Google kind of just pays people to make cool stuff using their tools, and that's the result of Chrome experiments. Yeah, so neat stuff. When we get a little further, I can bring in some people who are like working on stuff like this, and we can kind of see what they think and how they solve problems in this world. But let's learn about variables and stuff first before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Yeah. So anyway, there are cool libraries. When I say libs, I mean libraries. Libraries are just like pre-built pieces of code that other people share with others. So there's a lot of great libraries. These three are three of them. Yeah. So that's it. Important thing to note: learning resources. Like I've said a few times, like I don't like know what I'm doing all the time. Like I'm always Googling things and on Stack Overflow all the time, figuring out the best way to solve a problem or getting help. These are all really good resources. Eloquent JavaScript is awesome. It's a free online book, basically, about how to teach JavaScript. I'm essentially cribbing this for this whole lecture with like my own spin on it. This guy, Douglas Crockford, is the man as far as JavaScript goes. Like he's a brilliant thinker. He's a little advanced. Like maybe you're not ready for this quite yet, but these are some tools that will help you. Superhero.js, a nice resource for tools, libraries, etc. Told you about Stack Overflow, and then the Mozilla Developer Network is just, they put together really nice documentation on this stuff. One of the most important things to learn as you try to program more is just how to find answers to your questions. It's kind of like if you ever set up like a piece or like IKEA furniture, right? Anyone set up IKEA furniture? You're all in college, yeah. So it's like very important to read the instructions and follow them, or you'll end up with a bunch of extra pieces and wobbly furniture. So it's really the same as that's a form of engineering, right? Like putting together furniture. The same way web programming is a form of engineering. So you gotta, if you don't have the instructions, look for them online. There's a lot of documentation to help you through any problem that you might have. All right. So with that, let's fire up a console. We all kind of know how to do this. This is the JavaScript console. We've used the developer tools before, which is that thing that pops up, like you go here, and it shows up on the bottom. So that's how you get into a JavaScript environment. Like I feel like I've shown you guys 3 main ways to code things, right? You can use the inspector and like write HTML or CSS right in the in this thing, right? This also, this is the console, right? Console, JavaScript console. Why are there errors? I don't know. Not my problem. Just get rid of them. So there's that. We've also looked at tools like JS Fiddle, right? Where you can go and you can like write some HTML, blah, 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 and you can view it here. There's lots of different ways to try out JavaScript. And then we've also used programs. We have Atom, Sublime, etc. And all of these are valid ways to try and write some JavaScript. Right now, I guess we'll just use the console for the time being, and then we'll jump into the like a text editor as well. So okay, let's start with like this is kind of boring. Like I can't lie, it's hard to make this exciting. But here is sort of we're gonna go through like an introduction to like basic programming language fundamentals. And wait, remind me again, who here like has programmed before, like loops, if else, variables, all that stuff? Raise your hand. You a little bit? Okay. All right, cool. Oh, okay, yeah, that's like real programming. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, so I'll go slow, easy. Let's talk about values. All right. Values. What's a value? So JavaScript has 6 main values, right? They're basically, things can only be one of these, right? You got a number. Number. Do you guys know what numbers are? Yeah. Oh, yes. 1, 2. Right. Okay. Cool. So far, everyone's following. Great. We've got strings. Strings are it's text. Strings of text, right? This would be a string. This would be a string. String. A number could be a string. Just depends how you want to represent it. We'll get more into strings in a bit. Booleans, this is true or false. Functions, which we'll learn about. Objects, and then undefined. Undefined meaning just has no value, right? Different programming languages handle these things in different ways. In some languages, there's no undefined. They use maybe nil, null, none, just handled differently. Either way, the point here is that it's like the absence of a value, right? And that's a brief overview. Objects we'll get to at some point, probably next time, maybe this time. So let's look at some basic operators, right? Arithmetic operators. Is everyone familiar with addition? Addition. It's when you add things together. Subtracting. When you subtract things from each other. Multiplication, multiplying. No, you get it. Does anyone know what this is? Modulus? Anybody? It looks like a percent sign, right? It's really not, though. It's the modulus operator or modulo operator. it gives you the remainder. Remainder. You guys probably not the mathiest people around. Sit your phasers on stun. But like 6 divided by 5. What's the remainder? 1. So if you did 6 modulo 5, the answer is 1. It's used a lot to test if something's even. Like if you want to know if you have an even number, how would that work?
In translation.
Yeah, no, please, yeah.
取就是除一个数又取那一个数。
Yeah, it's just cool. Cool. That yeah, I feel like that's universal. But so how would you check if a number is even using this? First of all, what's an even number? Do you guys know what even number? What? No, but like define an even number. What defines it?
A number where there's no remainder. You divide it by
By what? You guys aren't mathy, are you? By 2, yeah. So an even number is a number that when you divide it by 2, there's no remainder, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, basically it ends in 2 or 0. So like, you know how would you check for that with this? Anybody? Think about that. Think about that. All right, so let's go into these a little more. We know what numbers are, so let me just go here real quick. Let's try. I'm just going to try out some of these operators to show you how they work, so that you're not totally clueless. So this console, by the way, this is like a live JavaScript interpreter, right? So when I type code in here, I'm typing JavaScript code in here, and when I hit enter, it executes the JavaScript code, prints out a result, and then brings me back to this thing. So I'm typing JavaScript here. So let's try out the plus operator, the addition, right? So like 5 plus 5. What do you think will happen when I hit enter? 10. Ken, you're so smart. Oh my god. Oh wow, look at that. Brilliant. All right, cool. So let's try the subtraction operator. 5 minus 5. 0. Notice how I didn't have a space there? The spaces don't matter around the operators. You can do that. This is all the same. 5 minus 5. 5 minus 5. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. Like it's important to be consistent with this stuff, and you'll see that later. But so that's subtraction. And then we got multiplication. Remember, what's the multiplication sign? Is it this? Asterisk, exactly. Thank you. 4 times 4, 16. Cool. 4 divided by 4, 1. Yeah. So this stuff's, I think we got this, right? Arithmetic. What about? Okay, well let's go back and talk about strings. So a string is just a string of characters. It can be as a single character, or it can be like an entire novel, right? The important characteristic of a string in JavaScript is that it's always has to be surrounded by quotes. All right? So let's apply that to this console here. Let's clear the console. We don't need all this. So hello, right? If I execute this, it just repeats it back to me, right? That's it. But what if I do hello without anything around it? Error. Hello is not defined. So right now, if you don't put it in quotes, JavaScript doesn't know what hello is. It's not a command. It's not anything yet. So it complains to us. So strings have to be in quotes. Now we learned these arithmetic operators. Some of you can use the plus sign with strings. Hello world. Hello world. Cool. It's a shortcut here. If you hit the up arrow in the console, it'll bring up your last command. This also works in Skype to edit, by the way, which is kind of cool. So if you wanted the space there, you could put a space after the hello, right? Or if like a comma, just make it look nicer. Hello world, right? We have a nice little thing. So that's I haven't tried this yet. Let's see. What if we use the subtraction? Man, nan, nan. Any idea what that means? Any idea? Just guess. What? Close. What? Wait, no. Who said that? I was like, right. Not a. Not a no. Not a number. It means not a number. Because hello and world are not numbers, so you can't use arithmetic operations on them. For some reason, plus sign, totally cool. But all the other ones will throw errors. So this is like a JavaScript thing. You'll see this a lot if you try to do things like divide strings. You know, it doesn't work like that. You need to convert them to numbers first, right? So arithmetic operators work with numbers. And that's kind of the thing. Cool so far? The next one, Boolean values, named after George Boole. Hated smile. George Boole is like a brilliant logician. Like, I'm not going to get into truth tables and logic operators yet, ever. That's more like computer science stuff that's boring. So what you really need to know is true and false, right? True is true. False is false. That's called a tautology. We'll learn about that never. Let's look at true and false, right? I actually should put this way, lowercase. Yeah, there we go. Bam. So, let's see. True. Let's look at true. Let's clear this console. Look at true. All right, true. True. False. False. See, it's not throwing an error, right? It's because true and false are like JavaScript words. We'll see kind of how these things work later when we learn more about operators. So I'll show you some operators. All right. These are comparison operators. Sometimes you want to compare things and do something based on a comparison. So you guys probably know this from like math, right? Like less than or equal, greater than or equal, right? So let's try these out. Give me a number. 8, thank you. Nice, good number. So is 8 less than 3? False, right? Who thinks this is true? Get out if you do. Oh, that's fine. False. There we go. That was easy. What about 8 greater than 3? True? Right. This is easy. Cool. What about hello greater than world? Right? Weird. Why would you do that? What? Shouldn't it be like something else? Why does that work? Right? Isn't that weird? You'd think so. JavaScript's a weird language. This is something you'll come to see. Like, stuff like this just has a mind of its own. In a lot of other programming languages, you'd get an error here, and you wouldn't be able to proceed, and everything would blow up. JavaScript, not so much. What about this? World greater than hello. True. Whoa. This actually makes sense. So if you think about words as being in alphabetical order, right? Like H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, right? W is the 23rd letter of the alphabet. So it's ordered alphabetically. So hello is less than world because Yeah, world is greater because world is heavier alphabetically. It's kind of weird. But, you know. Wait, that makes me wonder. Yeah, explain that, because I can't. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, this one's, because yeah, is there a concept of alphabetical ordering in, like, Mandarin or Cantonese? Is there, like, alphabetical ordering? Yeah? Like, in character-based languages, is there alphabetical ordering? Stroke order. Okay. So that's a thing. Hmm. We have 26 letters. And they all just go in order. So yeah. Is that cool though? Is that making sense? We're all tracking? Alright, good. Good. What's next here? Okay, so let's look at a couple examples. I'm a big fan of green on black. I just think it looks great. These things here are functions. We'll learn about these later, but I just want to show you like how a function sort of works here. Wait, maybe I should pull this back up. You know, I'm gonna pull this one up. A function. You can think of a function as like a little program that gets assigned a value. Okay? And then we execute the function, like meaning we call the function with parentheses at the end of it. Let's see what that means, because that's a little weird. All right, so let's actually wait. Let's go back here. So we're functions. All right, functions. Here's a function. Weird. It just said function alert native code, whatever that means. It's because we're not executing the function here. We're just repeating the name of the function. Okay? So let's execute the function. The page at Google says nothing. Okay? That's because we're not giving our function any parameters, right? So let's give this function something. Hello. Hello. There we go. So this is a function. This is a very simple function, right? And alert. We didn't create this. This is a JavaScript function, right? If you go to like one of the resources I was talking about, this is one of those situations where you're like, I've just introduced a function to you, and you maybe might forget how the function works. So the smart thing to do there, if you do forget and you want to know what it's talking about, is to I like this one, the Mozilla Developer Network, and then you can go to JavaScript and be like reference. Let's try functions. Can I just see all of them? I can't. Standard objects. Search it. Let's search it. Alert. There it is. Alert. Why is this all in red? I don't know. But yeah, the alert function displays a modal dialog box with a message representing the input. This is the syntax. Alert. String. Message, right? And that's it. The message parameter is displayed as a string in the dialog box. If message is not a string, then it's converted into one and displayed. That's interesting. So what happens if we were to do something like this? It's not a string, right? But that documentation said what? it would convert it to a string. So should work. There we go. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a number. It's just converted to a string. So that's one function. We have another function. One second. I decided to change the flow here of what I had because it made more sense. Yeah. Where was I? Oh, sure. Yeah, this one. So alert is a function. Alert with parentheses executes the function, right? So let's look back at these two here, okay? Ah, wow. Fail. Sorry. That was me. Just failing. All right, so we looked at alert, right? We've got this one, prompt. This is cool. Prompt. Prompt. What's prompt? Once again, if you don't know what a function does, just look it up. There's a ton of places you can do this. Once you find a place that you're like happy with, then use it. Whoa, that's weird. Is this what I'm looking for? Probably a bad example. Yeah, that's not it. Whoa. I don't know how I got to this like weird site anyway. I mean, like I could just show you this, but I'd rather show you how to find it. I just think it's easier that way. Definitions. Whoa, this is weird. This is not how I looked at it earlier today. Jesus Christ, why is everything just falling apart around me? Oh, sorry. Window prompt. Okay. You'll see this sometimes. Window dot. Like we could have also said here, window dot alert. See how it's filling it out for me? Like we could have also said window dot alert. Hi. Oh, did you notice I use single quotes? Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, you can use single quotes. You don't have to use double. But you have to be consistent. You can't mix them. Like you can't do this. That is not cool. That will throw an error. You don't have to use the window. Like for now, we won't use it. Just don't be thrown off if you see it, right? So don't want to explain objects yet, so we'll just say, yeah, window sometimes is in front of stuff, but it doesn't have to be. But let's look at this prompt thing again. So what prompt does is displays a dialog with an optional message prompting the user to input some text. Okay? Kind of makes sense. Let's try it out though. So, get this out of here. Prompt. What's up? Whoa. Okay. We have a box. So I'll type something in it. Not much. Oh. And look, it popped up right here. Cool. That's awesome. So wait, what if we combine our alert with our prompt, right? So we could do alert, prompt, what's up? Does that make sense? Are we cool? I'm prompting and then I'm alerting that prompt. Kind of crazy, right? What's up? Not much. I'm gonna hit enter. Bam! And then it alerted back to me the not much. Right? So what's happening there, the concept here to kind of wrap your head around is that a function returns something. Right? A function is a little program that sometimes takes input, sometimes doesn't, and then it returns a value. If you don't specifically return something, then it'll just return false or undefined. Something falsy, basically. And that's kind of that's really a basic description of functions that should work. So let's tie this into our HTML a little bit better because right now we haven't done that. So let me introduce something called the script tag, right? So do you guys remember remember when we included our CSS as an external file? We used the link tag. Let me fire that up for you just so you can see. Link tag. Whoops, there you go. Who are the competitors? What are all these documents? What are all these things? Sorry. All right, so HTML. Oh, shit. I'm just going to fire something up real quick here to show you guys. Okay. Blah. So, you see? Yeah. Link. href, right? And this is where we put the link to our CSS. So the same way that we included CSS from an external file, we can do the same thing with JavaScript, right? And we do it for the same reasons we did in CSS. Yo, man, did you see that? I'm addicted. So we have a new tag called script. Let's look at that. Script. Instead of href, we use source. Once again, HTML is weird. It just does things differently. And then the link to the file, and then you have to close the script tag. Source points to the file, and then it's really similar to link or image, right? All these tags are basically tags that point to external items, right? So let's fire up the script tag. Throw it in here. We don't need this anymore because we're not going to do external CSS. And now we have an HTML. I'll put it in here, basic.html, and then we'll create the new file, myfile.js. Okay. Hello. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this. In JavaScript, you terminate an expression with a semicolon. It's really frustrating. It's kind of annoying. You don't technically have to do it, but it's considered good practice to do so. Some languages, you have to have that colon. Is it C#? You have to have it? Yeah. So you just get used to, at the end of a line, you just hit that thing. It's right here. It makes sense. It's kind of like when you write a sentence, you have a period at the end. This is the period at the end of the sentence. And if you don't include this, things break. So there's always exceptions to this stuff, so I'll show you that later. But for now, just do what I say. All right, so what we just did here is, let me just create this in a folder. Ay, la madre que te parió. Bam. 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 Okay. Okay. So view. Oh wait. Split. Nope. View. Layout. 2 columns. All right. Ugh. Okay. So once again, HTML, JavaScript. So now let's just fire up this file and see what happens. Hello. Cool. I mean, that should have been pretty obvious that was going to happen, right? Good. We have something. We have something on our page. Now, one other thing. This is another function that I'm going to show you guys that is really helpful when you're learning JavaScript. So we have this console down here, right? And we can like do stuff, right? We can do like 5 + 5 and all that, right? But it's really helpful in your HTML file, which this doesn't look like an HTML file, but I promise you it is. We'll see. Yay. It's helpful to be able to, instead of alerting things all the time, to actually write to this thing here. So let's learn that function real quick. So instead of alerting, we can do this thing called console.log. Now, once again, okay. without getting like too deep into objects, which we'll learn about later, just know that this is a way to write to the console, which is really important. Function names follow the same rules as variables. So a function name can't have a period in it. It can't have a space in it. It can only have alphanumerics and a few special characters. But this is a special thing, and we'll learn about this dot later. But for now, just accept it. This is how we write to the console. So I'll illustrate here, right? So my console.log, hello. So when I refresh this page, see I've written to this thing down here. Got it? Is everybody tracking here? Is this cool? Am I moving too slow, too fast? You getting it? Am I boring you? You can say yes. So boring. Let's watch more music videos. Unfortunately. Yeah. All right. So we're right into the console. And we can kind of recreate the same stuff that we did before. So I can do prompt. What's your name? Or what is your name? Refresh. What is your name? Darius. And that's it. I haven't really done anything with this page. So let's all right, we get it. We can put JavaScript in a separate file and execute it on the page, right? You got that? Make sense? Cool. So that takes us to the next thing. Variables. You guys know what variables are, roughly? Yeah. So variable is just a place to store a value that you want to use later in your program. In JavaScript, we use the var keyword to declare a variable. Once again, JavaScript's a weird language. You actually don't need to use the var keyword. But if you don't, things break badly. So just use this. We'll learn about scoping and stuff later. In here, I've assigned the string platypus, which is a weird animal, to the variable animal. Does anybody know, like, does this make sense? Why didn't I put quotes around this? Why didn't I put quotes around this? I don't know, just because I didn't. It's because variable names don't have quotes, strings have quotes, right? So let's use this construct in what we're doing, right? So, we saw that prompt returns it returns whatever I input, right? So let's assign that to a variable. How would I assign that to a variable? Give the robot instructions. Somebody. You want to try? What's that? Yeah, BR. What else?
Something equals.
Sure. Something. Okay. Where? We actually don't have to here. I mean, let me show you what would happen here. If we put, oh shit, no, yeah, like if we put quotes around this here, we're making this entire thing a variable, right? So or a string. So it's, I know, yeah. Here, let me take care. Thank you for taking care of that. Let's not have the computer die. That would be embarrassing, to say the least. This never happens. Okay. I won't make anybody crawl on the ground this time. So, sorry. Okay. Shit. I feel better already. Okay. So yeah, we've just assigned the value of that to the word something, right? Okay. So now, what if I want to put something out into the log, like into the console? Anybody? I want I want whatever I type into the box to show up in here. Who wants to take this? I'm gonna start calling on people. Amber, what do I do? Okay. You don't seem to know. It's okay. Shelly, you have your hand over your mouth. Let's talk it through. Talk it through. Let's take the program from here and let's see if we can figure this out. I want the value that I enter in here, right? What is your name? My name is Darius. I want this value to be spat down here, right? Because right now it's not. So what I've done so far is I'm just logging something hello just to kind of like show you how that's possible. That thing down here, hello. And then the next line of the file, remember, execute top to bottom. The next line, something equals prompt for what is your name. So now something is going to contain the value of whatever I said my name was. So now I want to put that value into the log. How do I do that? Lindsay, any idea? Well, we logged a string up here, and that seems to work.
Should you just put like whatever you type in, like in the confusion mark?
Tell me what to type and let's try it. Huh. What? Ken, you're smiling. What do I do? What do I type? Interesting. Subham, come on, you know the answer here. I just want whatever I type into that thing to go into the console. How do we write to the console? Right. How do I, like, I want this, except I don't want to write the word hello. I want to write whatever was put in there, right? We all understand the problem. Sounds smart. So console.log, and then do I just write something? Do I put in quotes? What do I do? Okay, let's put in quotes. Okay, let's try this out. All right, is everybody tracking what we're writing here? Right? Okay, cool. So let's try this out. Fire it up. Bam! What is your name? My name is Darius. Shit. It just wrote something. Just wrote something. Quotations, right? Remember, when you put quotes around something, it's a string. So let's get rid of the quotes. Now we're talking about a variable. Remember, we defined this up here. We're basically saying, I'm creating a variable. It's called something. And something contains the value. It's like you can think of it like a bag, and inside the bag is your value. Or it's like an octopus that's pointing to a value. Whichever one helps. And then we would log something. So this should work. Let's try it out. Okay. Man, that worked. I told you already. Okay. Okay. Let's see what happens if we do an error, right? Let's say you're not thinking and you mistype something, right? Like that. Right? Spelled it wrong. One character, right? One measly character, right? Let's see what happens. Wah. Something is not defined. It's really important to like get used to seeing this because you will make so many mistakes when you start, and like it's good to know when you see an error like this immediately what it means, right? Like you should see this and be like, oh, shit, typo. Like I need to go find that somewhere. sometimes what I'll do if I'm working in a large file, if I see something not defined, I'll be like, okay, let me copy that, go in my file, and then, I know this is a small example, so it's silly, but you might be like, I'm going to search, right? Search. Yeah, the last thing I searched was Gotham, whatever. And then I'll search for something and find it right there. I'm like, oh, okay, I see that's misspelled. Let's change it. And then you'll come back here. And we're good, right? How's that? We're good? We're good. Radius. Cool. All right. So we did it. That's pretty awesome. How are we feeling right now? Feeling good? Awesome. So, I always feel like this is tricky because it's like, if it's the first time you've done it, it can be a lot of information. Like, if you've done it before, it's like, oh, this is obvious, but if it's new, it's very confusing. And it doesn't just make sense immediately. We're learning a new language, so it's tricky. Creating variables. All right, so let's talk about naming of things, because naming is like I said, it's one of the hardest things you'll do. Like, remember when we were coming up with names just for our CSS classes or CSS IDs? It's complicated because you want to make something descriptive, but not too descriptive so that it's like long and wordy, but you don't want to make it vague so that you don't understand it. Like, for instance, this is a good variable name. I have an animal, right? And I want that animal, to be platypus. Like, something is a terrible variable name. Terrible. A better variable name would be something like user input, right? That's what it is. It's user input. Let me show you a couple of styles of variable naming. This is called camel case, right? Like, camel, like the animal, because like you capitalize between your words, right? So like let me give a different example. Let's say if we were going to call it like, I don't know, like if you had 3 words, like my user input. Camel case. Does this make sense? Right? Another format for this is underlines. See that a lot too? They're both acceptable. The one thing that you have to remember though is, or that you should do is don't mix the two because it just looks ugly, right? Pick one and stick with it, right? Personally, when I write JavaScript, I do camel case, everything. It just makes everything easier. So this would be my user input. My user input. And this should still work. It shouldn't break anything. Yay. Okay. So we get that. More naming. You can't use these as variable names because JavaScript has reserved these words, right? You'll see why, but like stuff like for, function, if, like you can't call your variable that. I mean, you could call your variable, you could use these words in your variable name, but your variable name by itself can't be one of these. And like, you don't have to bother memorizing these, just know that you can't do it and you will see an error. So you'll see something like, I don't know, let's try. Var, break equals can't do this. Yeah, it didn't even throw the prompt, right? Unexpected token break, because that's not how you use the word. So once again, if you see an error like this, you know, oh, I used a word that I guess I can't use. So it shouldn't happen that much though, because if you make your variable names descriptive and just learn the reserve words, you're fine. Let's talk a little bit about readability. Okay? Comments. These are 2 really good quotes here. Always code as if the guy who ends up maintaining your code will be a violent psychopath who knows where you live. Code for readability, right? You're not coding to be quick or clever. You're doing it so that people can understand it. Because, as someone smart once said, code is read much more often than it is written, right? It's like you're reading it not. It's the same as like, have you ever picked up somebody's Photoshop file who like didn't really give a shit, or somebody who was working very quickly? and like their layers are named like layer 1, layer 54, and you have no idea what to do with the file. It's really the same thing in programming, or with an After Effects project with like 50 layers. It's the same with programming. If you don't organize your files and include comments, which we'll see, then people will hate you and won't want to work with you. So that's important. So let's look at these comment types. We have 2 different ones. There's a single line. Here's another single line, and then there's multi-line. Let's just see how these are used, right? Okay, so first let's unbreak our code here and go back to it. Okay, yeah, word, cool. All right. So let's say that I don't want to use this prompt, right? Let's say I want to test it out a different way, right? I can do a comment by. Wait, do you guys remember? You probably already forgot. Who remembers how to do a single line comment? Except for you, since you already know. How? What do I do? You have no idea. Amber, come on. It was just on the screen. Like literally 5 seconds ago. Maybe 20. Point on the keyboard. Like your keyboard. No idea. Damn it. All right, I'm going to go back to the slide. Don't tell her. Single line comment. Did I really explain what a comment is? I didn't explain what a comment is. That was bad. So a comment is when you have part of your code that you don't want to execute, right? And that might be because you're testing something out, or you have a chunk of code that's doing a lot of stuff that you don't want to execute because you want to save time. Or a comment could also be because you want to explain what's going on in your file, right? So I'll do the single line example for you, and then we can come back to it later. So maybe at the top of my file, and once again, I'm using space here quite liberally because it doesn't matter, right? You can space out as much as you want. So let's go up here. Single line comment. Notice it's two characters, just like that. And then this is my program. It is a great program. Let's say I want to comment out this hello as well, right? Bam. I'm going to save it, and let's see what happens. Refresh. PD. Notice how the hello is gone from here, right? It's because it's commented out. Go back and look at it. So what if I uncomment these lines? Man, fail. Why did that fail? Yeah, because I just broke all the rules, right? Like, what is this line, right? It's not a string. It's not a number. It's just a bunch of words. So the program, the robot, doesn't know what to do with the input, right? So you could either delete it, put it in quotes, right? Or comment it. We comment things.
Is that like if you wanted to talk to people from the group?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of times you'll see stuff like, oh my God, it's so late. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what's an amazing way to test the quality of a project? Let's go to GitHub and let's look at let's just search for WTF. Ooh, a lot of WTF in JavaScript, right? Decent amount in Python, surprisingly low amount in PHP. Let's go to JavaScript here. But that's the repos. We want to search the code. So much WTF in C++. This is a complicated language. People flip out when they write it. C, Objective-C, Java, PHP. JavaScript's not that bad. You'll get a lot of stuff like console.log. You see this a lot. It's kind of like a gauge of how complicated things are. Or like you might see stuff like no clue what I am doing. In JavaScript. No clue. I have no clue what the heck you're talking about. Like, yeah, I mean, you'll a lot of stuff goes on in the comments of source code. So, and this is how you do it. Like, you might leave a note for another developer. Like, I did this a lot. I'm so sorry. It was late. I had a deadline. Please forgive me. Or like, you might do something like this. Cleaner, right? And then you can. This is like a common thing, writing to do in all caps with a colon, because then I can search my whole project and be like, what did I not do, right? And then you can find all the places that you need to fix later, in all that free time that you have. Generally, to-dos never get done, but we do them anyway. So that's a comment, single line. Now, let's say I want to comment out this whole script, right? Because I want to alert, word up. Yes, I could do this, but that's kind of annoying. And you can imagine if there was a lot of code here, that would get cumbersome. So instead, what we do is the multi-line comment. Now, multi-line comment. How does the multi-line comment work? Hint, just like this. Okay, so come on, somebody, just help me out here, please. I need this. I want to comment out this whole thing. What do I do? Okay, and then to close it, it's just the reverse. And you can see, I mean, the important thing too is like if you have your editors set up right? Like this works in Atom and Sublime and all of them. I'm in JavaScript mode, so my editor knows that this is a comment block, and so it's kind of graying it out. So it's visually, you can look at a file and be like, oh, that's comments. I get it. Don't freak out. So let's try this and see what happens. Word up. And none of the other stuff shows up. None of the prompting. This has worked. Comments. Guidelines for commenting, I would say you should only comment really when it's totally necessary. Like if you're really doing something complicated. I think what people strive for more than commenting is code that self-comments. Like you use variable names that make sense, right? You don't call stuff something, or don't use the variable name A, right? Use a variable name that makes sense so that people can look at your code and be like, oh, I know what this is doing. This makes sense. Same when you name your functions, which we'll learn later. And really using space intelligently. Don't cram things onto one line. Like there should be some harmony and poetry to what you're writing. And that's all I'll say about that. Yeah, so comments. All right, we talked about functions. We'll come back to these in a bit. I feel like these are things that you kind of want to hear multiple times, though. Like, once again, alert is a function. Alert with parentheses executes the function. All right, that's an important distinction because in JavaScript, a function can be like passed around in a variable. Whoa, and that's kind of trippy, right? Let me explain that, because that's a trippy concept that is hard to explain, or it's hard to like grasp. So actually, let's just fire up the fiddle for this. It'll just be easier. Can you see? Is that good? Yeah. It's a little small, right? Alert, hola. Spanish for hello. We all expected that to happen, right? Like, no surprises. All right, cool. So let's do this. Instead of that, how do I create a variable again? Give me a variable name. This variable will be representing a some sort of sea creature. Nice. Well, that's a good point, though, because octopus would be a good variable name if we were representing like a particular octopus. So that could work. I think in this case, though, it'd probably be better to have like sea creature equal to like sea creature equal octopus, right? Something like that.
Sorry, I thought you were asking for me.
Okay. Well, that was a great sea creature name, by the way. Okay. So we can assign strings to variables. We saw that, right? Now, what we can also do, well, there's a couple things we could do. This is totally valid in JavaScript. Basically, what we're saying here is that I have a variable. It's called sea creature, and I haven't assigned it anything yet because I'm just not ready to do that, right? For whatever reason. But what this looks like too, we can use the console to see it. Var sea creature. Should have picture shorter. You can see it's undefined, right? Undefined. It's undefined because we haven't defined it, right? We just created it. Remember this word, undefined, this is one of our JavaScript reserved words. Like this was a type too. It's one of the 6 types. Number, string, boolean, undefined, object, right? Function, 6. So we haven't defined it yet. So let's assign sea creature to something. And I want to assign it to alert. Wait, isn't that crazy? Wait, trip off that for a second, right? We know that alert is a function, right? Alert is a JavaScript function. And we know that because it's on this page here. Shit. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. It wouldn't be on this page. I'm totally wrong. It's not a reserved word. It's a built-in function, right? It's a built-in function of JavaScript. So what we just did is we assigned sea creature to alert, which is function. So now, when we call alert, we do this, right? Hello, right? We execute alert by using parentheses, and we pass in a variable, right? So we can run this, and it should work. Oh, did I miss? Oh, sorry. Okay, and it says hello. But so we've also since we've assigned sea creature to alert, we execute alert by putting parentheses around it, right? So how would we then execute sea creature? Sounds terrible. Execute sea creature with parentheses. I guess I think it would help. Octopus. Hello, octopus. It's kind of crazy, right? Like, we use alert as a variable even though it's a function. It's weird. Just let it sink in. I'll just stand here. Does it make sense, though? It barely makes sense to me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an expert. Yeah. Well, let that sink in. Maybe it's not as maybe you guys don't think it's as crazy as I do. I just feel like it. I guess coming from other programming languages, that's kind of a strange thing. But I guess here it's not. Also, this is a little redundant. We probably don't need to do this. It's fine like that. Just initialize it as such. You would probably never do this in real life, by the way. This doesn't make any sense. Like, you could just use the alert function. You wouldn't want to redefine it. I just wanted to point out to you that functions can be passed around, and you can execute them with this. Cool. All right. Okay, so let's talk about, so far, this has been our control flow, right? Alert, prompts, do the next thing, alert, prompt, blah, 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 blah. 1 plus 3, hello world. Like, we're just going in a straight line, right? So that's boring. So in order to do more interesting stuff, you need to have a conditional flow, right? So this is where do something, well, wait, if this is the case, do this, otherwise do this, right? This is where we get into logic and conditional logic, if, then, else, okay? And then you can go on and do the rest of your program. So conditional execution in JavaScript is done using the if-else construct. Syntax, very important here. You need the word if. Some people put a space between if and the parentheses, some don't. It's a matter of taste and preference. Whatever you do, be consistent. Personally, I don't do a space. I do it like this. Also, some people put a space between this and this. I do, sometimes. Also, these braces here. These braces are basically saying everything inside of this, execute that if this expression is truthy. We'll get into truthiness in a second. But like, if this expression is true, then do all this stuff. Otherwise, do all this stuff. And I think an example is probably do here, okay? So, example time. And also, I want to talk a little bit more about style here as well. Okay. Some people do this, like depending on what language. Like in some languages, this is more popular. This style. I personally think it's gross. I like to do it like this. Just looks better. I don't know. Personal preference. So let's express what's an expression, right? We don't really know what that is. An expression in this case is something that evaluates to true or false, right? We learned about our comparison operators earlier and booleans, right? The comparison. What's a comparison operator? Anybody? It was like 4 slides ago. Give me one. Shit. Nobody? Yeah, less than, greater than. You guys remember those? Remember the comparison operators? Like these slides ago? So let's try an expression. If let's try something easy. Like if 1 is less than 2, right? Which we know is true, right? I mean, we think it's true. We can say, yeah, it's true. So if 1 is less than true, alert. Yes, yes. Else. No. There we are. That's it. Conditional. So now, run it. Yes. I mean, we could take this a step further. So let's create a variable to store whether or not 1 is less than 2, right? We know how to create a variable, var. We'll call this comparison equals 1 less than 2. Does this make sense? What is the value of comparison right now after this line executes? Yeah. Close. Yes is close. True. Right. So it's true. So now if we do this, does that make sense? Check out. Will this work? Who thinks it'll work? Who thinks it won't work? Good. Over. So run it again. Yes. Nice. So you can see here we have like a nice way of, we've made this kind of generic. Like we can just change this, whatever this is up here, and it'll change whatever comes down here, which is kind of nice. You could also abstract some of these strings out. So you could have something like var yes text equals yes, var no text equals no. And then in here, have your yes text. Here, have your no text. And like, you might be wondering like why? Like why would you do this? But I think the point is that by abstracting this stuff up here, you're creating code that's easier to change and maintain. Like instead of having to go into this thing and change your text here and here, and your comparison, whatever that might be, you could just go up here and do it all in one block. So then if you were going to comment this, you might comment it something like configuration for my test. And then you can be like, here's my test. Right? So you have like nice logical separation of things, which is good. Yeah. I won't get too into like style stuff because that's confusing. Are you guys following? I get like blank stares right now. You good? Okay. Trying to read your minds. It's not really working. Okay. Whatever. We'll just keep steaming ahead. What time is it? 7:56? All right, cool. We have like 20 minutes. Should I cover loops in 20 minutes? Sure. Oh, is that going to be enough time? We'll do it, and then we'll cover it again tomorrow. So another thing are loops. Loops. Does anyone know? You guys familiar with loops? Anybody? No. You know what loops are? I feel like you know what you're doing sometimes, but then you don't. So then I'm wrong. Yeah?
Because we had the processing class called consistent thinking.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Wish I would have known this. Well, who's in the processing class? Oh, just you two. Oh, well, that doesn't really help anybody else here, does it? All right, so you know what loops are. So you can at least like sort of explain. That's good. So this is all your new stuff. That's good. Well, for everybody else, man, now I'm all self-conscious. I'm like, am I explaining it better or worse? Shit. It's really confusing. Anyway, a loop is a way to repeat an expression over and over again because it makes things easier for you. The example that you always see, and I'm going to do it here too, is printing the numbers from 0 to 10, right? And I'm going to introduce two kinds of loops. There's the while loop and the for loop. The while loop works like this. First, you define a variable, whatever you want to name it, give it as, initialize it, and then we say while, and then this is our expression, right? And remember, an expression evaluates to what? True or false, right? These expressions value true or false. It's the same as an if statement. When this statement is true, whatever this is, this program will run. When this is false, this program stops running and it goes to the next line. So if you think about this in the context of controlling flow, like we had that diagram with the arrow, like you're kind of creating a way for your program to do different things based off certain conditions, right? So in this case, let's do this. Like I'll fire this up and we'll watch it run. I mean, first I guess it makes sense to show you like what, we can save this one, create a new one. I'll post it later, whatever. So if you wanted to print all the numbers from 0 to 10, you might do console.log 0, console.log 1, console.log. My hands hurt. I'm not doing it anymore. That's it, right? And this will work, right? Hit run. Oh, wait. Hit run. There they are, the numbers, right? It worked. But it's not very efficient, and I type a lot. And I didn't even get all the numbers. So with a loop, we could say, maybe I'll write it out so you can see it. Var number 0 while number less than equal to 10 bam. Well, let's run it again. And then print all the numbers. I'm going to walk through it again, even though I already did. We initialize our number. This condition, while basically says repeat this until it's false. Until it's false. What if it's never false? What would happen then? Just keeps going forever, right? And you can get into a situation that would be an infinite loop, which is a bad situation, but let's try it. Let's crash my whole computer right now, basically. All right. So what's something that'll, like, what can I put here that'll never be false? Two is greater than 1. Is 2 ever less than 1? Never, right? Never, never, never. So, would you say it was 2 greater than 1? Yeah, this will never be false. So let's see what happens when we run this. Well, let me clear the console first, and let's run it. Computer unresponsive. Buttons not working. Things breaking. Stop. Shit. Let's just let it run. Just see what happens. Yeah. So, yeah. It's just now it's at 22. Yeah, it's not gonna stop, right? It's at 22,000. I mean, if the numbers kind of go on forever. Some people debate that, but I kind of know that. That's weird. It's not going any further. I wonder. Oh, 55. Yeah, it's just kind of like storing them up, I guess. All right, so let's try to back out of here somehow. Shit. It's okay. It'll just crash the tab and then it'll ask me to restart it. You get the point, though, right? This at some point should probably not be true. Otherwise, you're going to get into this scenario, and then this happens. Let me back out here. Oh shit! I knew this would happen. It's just this one tab. All right, whatever. I'll fire up another one. That thing is just going to eat up CPU cycles for a little bit, and then we'll be okay. You hear my computer? It's like the fan just turned on, and it's like, it's really angry at me right now. Shit. Very angry. Well, you know, that's what I get. Let's see. Oh! Google Chrome eating up 145% of the CPU. Yeah, it's bad. Probably just crashing everything here. Let's try to back out of here. Let's just quit Chrome altogether. That's not happening. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So yeah, don't do that. Well, I guess you can see though, yeah, like an infinite loop is a bad situation to be in. Oh wait, I have to get mail. Wait, drive. Oh wow, now everything's working all of a sudden. It's weird, I can't log in, but I can access the site. So that's, yeah, while loop. Ooh, where were we? Let me put this back in. So, okay, that's one kind of loop. The next kind of loop we're going to talk about is, wait, were there any questions here, first of all? No? All right. Oh, there's one little shortcut here that I like to show you guys. This right here can be rewritten like this. It's just shorthand, makes it easier. It's because we write that a lot. So, and it's the same thing. You get that? I'll comment it out so you can see. It also works with minus. You can do like number minus minus. Subtract it. Okay, so let's look at the next loop type. And that's the for loop. This does the exact same thing as the while loop. The cool thing about the for loop is that it's just a more compact syntax. Honestly, we use it a lot more than the while loop. I feel like whenever you learn this stuff, they always teach you the while loop first, and then they teach you the for loop, and then say, don't ever use the while loop. So that's kind of what I'm saying. There are situations where a while loop makes sense. But this is probably something you're going to get more mileage out of. Let's try this out and then like play with it a little bit. So fire it up, run it. There's the numbers. Okay. Now one thing, like the whole point of using this syntax is that it's more compact and like easier to read, right? So it seems a little silly that we're using the word number here like 3 times, 4 times. So the convention that you see a lot here is just to use the letter I, meaning like an iterator. So you'll see this a lot. I equals 0, I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus, console log I. And it's just a more compact syntax. It's more convention. You can really use whatever you want here. Let me explain these parts though a little bit. So this first part here, this is your base case. This is the initialization of the variable you're going to use in your loop, right? This variable is called an iterator because it iterates, meaning it changes and repeats, right? So initialize I to 0, and then this is your condition, basically saying loop while this is true, right? So this is kind of like what would go in your while statement. While I is less than or equal to 10, execute what's in here. And then this third here is, oh shit, I forgot the word for it, but this executes once the loop is finished. And this is what increments your iterator. So the first time through this loop, I is 0. This logs here, and we get 0. I had the other logs in there. Once you get out of here, after 0, this gets executed. And so now I is 1. Console.log 1 gets past this line, and it iterates, or increments, so keeps going. Until it gets all the way to 10. After it hits 10, now it gets to be 11, and then it doesn't pass this case anymore, so you bounce out of the loop. Does that make sense? Cool. I feel like, yeah, it's like not the best explanation, but it's the best I can do right now. Any questions on that?
Can I put a while? Is that on 4?
In here? No, you can't. While, yeah, that wouldn't work. For, this is a very specific syntax to for. The while, like that's, if you kind of think about it, this is the syntax for a while loop. It's really just an expression. Remember, an expression is something that evaluates to true or false, right? Whereas for is like, it's more like assignment, expression, and then like iterator. There's a better way to explain that, but yeah, it has like 3 parts to it, and you have to have these in it as well. So yeah. Right. I mean, the kind of the point of the for is that like 90% of the time when you write a while loop, you do stuff like this, right? You initialize something, and then you have an iterator here, and then you have your expression. So it's like this became so common that somebody was finally like, well, why don't we just create a loop that combines all of these 3 things into one line, just to make it more compact. So that's why we have the for loop. It's basically just a kind of a shorthand way of writing the while. And yeah, you see this a lot more than you do the while loop. Yeah. But yeah, I use it a lot, all the time. There's some other loop types that we won't get into yet because they're more based around objects. So instead, and I didn't think we would even get this far today. Honestly, like we got through 27 slides. I mean, granted, some of them are silly, kind of like about people, but it's actually pretty impressive. But I'm still not sure how. I'm like looking at your eyes and faces, and I don't know if you really get it. So let's see. I have a pretty easy assignment here. Easy assignment. The point is like, think about this stuff over the week, right? Like, check out some of the resources I pointed out. The assignment doesn't involve a loop of any kind. It's just pretty straightforward. You guys probably will find this pretty easy. The others may not, but just try it. Like, get comfortable with it. Like, you want to be able to type without copying and pasting. Like, that's really important. To be able to just start with a blank page and do something. Because like copying and pasting, you're not really learning. You're just doing it. Like, if you just want to do the assignment, then just, I don't know, whatever. Just just do it. But like, it'd be better to actually type it yourself, learn it. Like, that's what we're here for. Hopefully you're inspired, right? Inspired to do this. I don't know. So anyway, let me get to the assignment. Once again, pretty easy assignment. I didn't think we'd get this far. So okay, we've learned all of this stuff, right? So, and then ask me questions about this if you have any, or email them, whatever. The point is, I want you to write a program that does the following. First, alert a user to enter a number. Then, prompt the user for a number. It's like 2 steps. You can combine. If the user enters a number, then alert the square of that number. If the user does not enter a number, like if they enter a string or a boolean, then alert an error message. Just something, if anything, being like, please enter a number. Something like that. Cool? Okay. Simple. Just a simple program. Just put it in, in like a JavaScript file and send it to me. Does that make sense? Are we good? Are we good? Clear? Confused looks. Slightly confused looks. It's okay. Once again, feel free to email me if you have any questions about that stuff. I feel like, I mean, I don't know, if a lot of people have problems with this assignment, then we can kind of go over some of this stuff again. But, so we covered a lot of material, but yeah, that's really it. I don't have too much, that's probably about it. We can end a little early. It's like, what, 8 minutes early? So that's it. Anybody have any questions? Good? I'm like disturbed at how silent everybody. Like if you're completely lost at this point, email me after class. Let me know. We can talk, figure stuff out. If this has just been super easy for you, then that's great too. Yeah, that's it. Class is dismissed. Does anybody else say that, or is that just me? It's like a thing. All right.